Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. As you know, I've been listening to the show for the last dozen years or so. You realize that we come to terms with being able to share what are known as alternative modalities of healing, things that are non-invasive and perhaps even more natural. On the program today, we're going to be talking about something known as Gong bath meditation. And our guest who's going to be joining us today, when he heard the gong for the first time over 5 years ago, was deeply moved by the resonating healing qualities of the sound, being swept away by a reflective sense of renewal, leading him on a journey of awakening while uncovering a life's passion, which is to share the powerful healing attributes of the gong with all those who are willing to listen. I'd like to welcome the Beyond 50 radio program today, our guest, Wayne Marto. Wayne, thank you for being on the program today.
Daniel, thank you very much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
You bet. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with gong healing.
Sure. So, kind of a long and winding road, actually, that has taken me to the gong itself. Essentially, it was part of a deep spiritual exploration that I was on. To take just a little step back from that, though, I come from a family of kind of extended musicians, both sides of the family, aunts, uncles, cousins, what have you, both professional and recreational players. My dad is has a great passion for jazz drumming. So I was introduced to the drums at a very early age and was very, very interested in learning rhythm, kind of tempo, timing from my drum playing. And then in my late teenage years, my brother actually handed me a bass guitar. He's a guitar player, and he needed a bass player for his fledgling rock band. And so who better than your little brother at that point to be the bass player? So quickly learned the bass guitar and really developed a love for rhythm instruments in general. Now, it didn't take me long to realize that the rock and roll road was not the best path for me. So I ended up actually going back to college, getting a degree in psychology, and from basically that point on, I dove into various sales-related jobs. I've always had a kind of a good business sense. Had a landscaping business when I was 18, and an import-export business in Berlin, Germany, out of college. So one thing led to another. Fast forward some 20 years or so, and I found myself at the age of 45 staring in the mirror and really asking myself, what was this journey all about? You know, theoretically, I was living the good life, right? I had all this stuff. I had the cars, the house, the boat, beautiful wife and children, a good-paying job, social status, if you will. But as I was looking at myself in the mirror, I could see that the quote-unquote good life was really taking a toll on me. I was about 40 pounds overweight. I like to say that I had the physique of an egg, literally from the chin to the belt line, very rounded. So being a cradle Catholic, conveniently Lent was right around the corner, and I decided to give up anything that wasn't empowering to me. So at that time, that meant drinking, smoking cigarettes, being lazy, not exercising. Was a pretty extensive list. And so over the course of that 40-day Lenten period, I really kind of started asking myself the big questions about life. Why am I here? What's my purpose? And at the end of the 40-day period, I had really begun kind of this deep spiritual dive. And I immediately started studying early Christianity and Gnosticism. I took classes on Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam. I visited temples and different places of worship, and was really just fascinated with it all. And essentially, I just started down this path of snowballing and peeling back the onion. And there were many signposts along the way, but one of the most significant was coming into the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, who, of course, is the great Indian sage who brought the teachings of meditation and yoga to the West in the 1920s. And that led me to start practicing meditation and yoga on a daily basis. And I went to a Kundalini yoga class, and Kundalini yoga is the yoga of awareness. And part of their teachings and their practices are using the Gong and as a meditative tool. And that's when I heard the gong for the first time. And when I did hear it for the first time, I had really this magical, wonderful experience, a deep kind of emotional cleansing that took place. And so I was really fascinated with not only my reaction to the sound, but then also just the gong as a musician. So absolutely fascinated with it at that point. Rushed out and bought myself a big gong and started playing all the time. And really just a beautiful beautiful journey. And it literally has really grown from that point on. Where now, of course, I'm doing live gong bath events, teaching this as a healing modality. So absolutely fascinating journey to get me to that point, and very excited to be here to share this with you.
Now let's talk about the gong itself. Tell us about that.
Sure. So gongs are ancient sound healing instruments, some, I'd say 3,000 years old or so. They're considered to be the most profound and really powerful sound healing instruments on the planet, and that's because they have the widest breadth of tones and frequencies of any instrument. So there's a lot of other tools out there to use for vibrational healing. Tuning forks, Tibetan bowls, the crystal bowls are very popular, and those are all really good, and they're all based on vibrational healing. But the gong really reigns supreme in its ability to deliver just such a vast range of tones and frequencies, completely bathing the entire human being in sound and healing vibration. Now, the gongs are played not for, obviously, listening pleasure, although they can be played in a really nice, delicate way where they sound nice also, but they're used, obviously, therapeutically. And so during my gong bath sessions, essentially I use two techniques while playing the gong, a wide variety of different mallets to bring out these various tones and frequencies, but there's two techniques that are essentially used. One is what's called a build and release cycle of playing. And the build and release cycle is deeply relaxing and healing. And what you're doing there is you're building the sound and the intensity. And we build the sound and intensity, we build it, and then we release that with a crash on the gong, either a single strike or multiple strikes, and then we let that sound decay. And so what happens is as we're building the sound, we're engaging the sympathetic nervous system, which is the system, the fight or flight system. And we're engaging that, and then when we release it with a crash, the parasympathetic system of relaxation can assert itself. And so we're building these build and release cycles, and we're helping our systems to kind of regain their normal balance. In this day and age, because we're running around with in a very stressful environment with sensory overload, we tend to be really running around with that sympathetic nervous system engaged most of the time. And so what we want to do is we want to train the body to kind of get back into its normal balance between the parasympathetic and sympathetic. So the build and release cycle, very, very good at promoting that deep relaxation and healing. And then the second way that the gong is played is usually using two mallets, and we call that an extended pulsing style. And this has less of the peaks and valleys in the sound volume. There is some of that, but it's more of a constant vibrating pulsing sound, and this really engages the mind. And so there's this deep immersion between the sound of the gong and the meditative mind, literally merging them together, where if you let yourself go, you literally merge with the sound. It can become one with the sound. And this is where it automatically and spontaneously puts you into a very deep meditative state. So during the gong bath, it's there's certainly some freelance playing that's going on. There's intuitive playing that's going on, but you're really using these two techniques to create a deeply relaxing and healing environment, and one that allows the listener to really dive in and experience the joys of a deep meditative state.
Now, let's talk about what a gong bath is.
Sure. So a gong bath is an event where the listeners come in And what I do is I start by essentially introducing the gongs and letting the people get familiar with the type of gongs that I use. I show them some strikes on the gong. I explain both the techniques that I just mentioned and show them those, because most people who are experiencing this are new to it, and they're really have either heard that gong bass can be very loud or what have you. So I like to create a nice, comfortable environment, introduce the gongs, and show them some strikes, and show them the technique so they get familiar with the sound and they understand why we're playing it the way that it's being played. Now, the particular gongs that I use in my gong bath are planetary gongs, and they're made by a company in Switzerland called Tasty. And planetary gongs are very unique. They're designed specifically with a note and a frequency, but then they're also designed to elicit a particular effect in the listener. And so my gongs that I use a Pluto gong and a moon gong. And the Pluto gongs are known for being very grounding and cleansing, removing of negative energies, really anything negative in our lives, emotions, thought processes. So very powerful, very grounding. And then the moon gong balances it very nicely. Moon gongs are very bright and uplifting and really broadcast a tremendous amount of positive energy. So the two gongs are very balancing and healing in combination. So I start my gong bass by introducing the gong, showing some strikes, and then explaining a little bit about the gongs. And then we move into a discussion on why they heal. Why is it that it matters to us to actually listen to this? So I go into some detail there, and then the listeners go ahead and get comfortable. Generally, that's lying on their back. So we encourage attendees to bring a yoga mat, bring a blanket, even a pillow or an eye patch, to just be absolutely comfortable and relaxed during the full 62 minutes that I play. Certainly, you can remain seated if you prefer, either in a yogic position or in a chair. We provide chairs as well, or you can move in a combination of one or the other. The important thing is that you're just relaxed and listening. So the goal of the attendee is really just to kind of let go and focus on the sound. In this day and age, again, because of the sensory overload that we're experiencing, and the heavy multitasking that we're doing all the time, our minds are going all the time. And so part of this is just letting the mundane and trivial thoughts that pop into our head, letting them go and focusing back on the sound. And then it's very easy to have that focal point and letting the sound really do its work. So we encourage the listeners to lie down on their backs, focus on the sound, and then release anything negative in their lives, any negative emotion that's not serving them in any way. Let it go and let the sound do its work. So I play for a full 62 minutes, which is the optimal amount of time for healing to occur. And then at the end, there's a couple minutes of silence. And that's really a time of deep expansion and healing. And then we play a little light music and bring everyone slowly back into body. So that's essentially the gong bath. And in a most general sense, we use soap and water to cleanse our bodies on the outside, and the gong bath uses the sound and vibration to really cleanse us on the inside, physiologically and emotionally.
Now, how do you think this actually works?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things I always get a kick out of, and I enjoy saying this in all of my gong baths, is you don't need to understand how it works or even believe in it to still fully benefit from its use. But what I found is the best way to explain how gong baths do work is to talk a little bit about the intimate relationship between the gong and yoga, specifically what's known as the 5 yogic koshas. And kosha is just a Sanskrit word that means a layer or sheet. And so the 5 koshas are essentially a philosophy about the 5 levels or layers that comprise us as human beings. And a good analogy for the 5 koshas is to think of them as individual lampshades. So at the center of our being, we all share this pure, light. And then we all have these individual lampshades, the physical bodies, male or female, life experiences, mental and physical abilities, mental thought processes, social, cultural conditioning. All of these lampshades filter and obscure and sometimes obstruct that pure light. So the gong can help us kind of relax and balance each of these layers as we move in and kind of explore ourselves on a much deeper level. So I like to explain how it works through kind of the prism of these 5 yogic koshas. So the first kosha, which is the outermost lampshade, if you will, is the physical layer. And the physical layer is governed by asanas in yoga or body poses. And the gong's extremely powerful on the physical layer, primarily because of essentially because of the predicament that we find ourselves in, and that's that we're living in this universe of constantly changing and vibrating particles of energy. The greatest scientists of our time, from Einstein to Tesla, have accepted this as fact. As a matter of fact, string theory proposes that all matter is made up of tiny vibrating strings infinitely smaller than the atom. So all matter is in this constant state of vibration, and that includes the human energy system and every cell of the body. So really, in its simplest sense, what we're doing with gong healing is we're just bringing the human body, the human energy system, back to a peak vibrational state. And we're essentially retuning the human body back to its normal state of being. We're all essentially like a grand piano. And the more we're played by life, the easier it is for us to get out of tune. So what we do in a gong bath is we flood every cell of the body in tones and vibrations, and everything from bones, muscles, organs, via a very interesting universal principle known as sonic entrainment. We bring everything back to a peak vibrational state. So sonic entrainment is where rhythmic vibrations of similar frequencies will resonate in unison. Now the human body knows what it needs and can tune into what it needs at any given time. So by flooding the room, flooding the body in all of these tones and sounds, we allow the body to latch on to what it needs and to bring ourselves back to a peak vibrational state. Now, when we're vibrating at an optimal level, we're really at a peak emotional and physical level of well-being. And when we're out of vibrational balance, we're in a state of disharmony, and we suffer until we're brought back into that peak vibrational state. So the first kosha, the physical layer, what we're doing there is we're really working from a vibrational standpoint to bring the listener back to a peak state of being. Now, there's a lot of other things that are happening on the physical layer. The sound healing is a phenomenal way to stimulate glandular functioning, boost immune functioning. It's been known to be very good for digestion, flexibility, coordination, and on and on. So there's many things happening on the physical layer of being that make gong healing very, very powerful. So now as we move in closer towards the center of our being, that pure light, the second layer of being is the energetic layer, or sometimes known as the pranic layer. And the pranic layer is governed by pranayama, or breath control. And so the gong is masterful at really promoting this flow of life force, this flow of energy through the human energy system. This is also the layer that in some yogic traditions is referred to as the subtle body. And this is where the chakras reside, these energy vortexes, energy distribution centers. And so the gong is really a wonderful tool at balancing, opening, and removing blockages within the chakra system. And so very, very powerful at moving the pranic energy and creating this wonderful flow of energy throughout the body. And because we are energy systems, the more we allow the free flow of this energy through us, the better our life experience will be, the easier it is for us to navigate through this physical world experience.
Now, tell us, Wayne, what people have experienced during a Gong bath session.
Sure. So as we move in deeper, the third level is the emotional layer. And that's where people really start to experience a deep, deep emotional cleanse. And so the Gong, because the emotional layer is governed by sacred sound, the Gong probably has its very biggest impact at this layer. And so listeners really experience a couple things. It's essentially a deep emotional cleanse. So it's not uncommon at all to feel emotions kind of bubbling up. There's this emotional reorganization that takes place, releasing of any negativity, negative emotions in our lives. When the pranic energy movement, the second kosha, there's sometimes a tingling sensation that users can feel or that they describe as this energy is moving throughout the system. And I think as we move in deeper on the kosha level, we kind of fall into a deep meditative state. When the gong's played to promote that spontaneous meditative state, we're really transported to the vastness beyond the finite self. Sometimes we put these mental limitations on us, either our own thought processes or culturally, socially. We put these limitations on us, and the Gong bath moves us well beyond the finite restrictions that we put upon ourselves. And as we move beyond that, that fourth level, the fourth kosha, and the fourth layer of being is the wisdom mind. And as we move into that and beyond that, we come to the final fifth layer of being, which is the bliss layer. And the bliss layer is literally the gateway to spirituality, self-enlightenment, self-realization. So it's very, the Gong bath really runs the whole spectrum of the listener having essentially at the most extreme, almost like a hallelujah type of experience, as I did, all the way to the really just more of a stress-relieving experience and everything in between. Sometimes it takes listeners 3 or 4 times to really feel comfortable at letting themselves go with the sound. Because of my musical background, I think I was very open to it. So I did have one of those deep, moving, emotional experiences. So it's really the full gauntlet that people do experience. A lot of people simply fall asleep and will sleep through the entire Gong bath, which is also fine. Again, they still experience many of the benefits as being awake. Often with a chorus of snoring during a Gong bath, very normal. So really it's one of the things I like to say is that it's really your own personal experience. And so what's most important is that you show up and that you give yourself to the sound and let the sound take you where it needs to go and where you need to go to experience a deep level of healing and a sense of awakening.
We can always certainly use anything out there that can help us remove negative vibrations and negative thoughts, especially in a world like today where we're just bombarded so much with information and sound and just everything.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's it too. It's a very interesting phenomenon because it's not a new sound healing is nothing new. This is an ancient tradition that's really experiencing a great renaissance today. People, I think, are just realizing that we need to do something. We can't keep being in this day-to-day grind, the multitasking world that we live in to the point of exhaustion. I like to jokingly refer to a Gong bath as a monotask event, where essentially your one task is to listen, just to listen to the sound, let the sound do all of the work. And really one of the great things about a Gong bath is that the Gong really will meet the listener wherever they are on their life journey and provide just what they need, whether that's, again, a physical balancing, emotional cleansing, energetic flow, or a deepening of spirituality. Regardless of what that is, the Gong meets you there and provides just what you need. So it's really a wonderful retuning, re-energizing, and then kind of a connecting with your deeper intuitive self.
Now, how can people find out more about this? I know that you host events sometimes too as well, so where can they go to find out more about this?
Sure. The name of my business is Beneficial Sound. So the website is www.beneficialsound.com. And yes, I do the live gong bath events. It's really become my passion to just really share the healing attributes of the gong with anybody who's willing to listen. So I'm often doing events. It's essentially, I would say, probably my biggest joy is being out playing. So a lot of information on the website. Obviously, there's an event schedule as well. So yeah, that is the site, Beneficial Sound.
Well, go to beneficialsound.com and benefit yourself by the sound of the gong and the feel of the gong bath. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Daniel, thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
You bet. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. You can also discover more. Visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter and stay up to date with what's going on in the community of Beyond 50 as well as upcoming programs. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.